The merchant's cart rattled away down the forest path, leaving Garen Holt standing alone in the clearing with his questionable purchase. He stared at the burlap sack writhing at his feet, already regretting the 10 silver coins he'd parted with at the border market. A goblin worker, the merchant had promised, with yellowed teeth and shifty eyes. Strong as an ox, eats little, asks for nothing. Perfect for a man alone in these woods. Garen had lived in his remote cabin for 7 winters now, ever since the war had ended, and he'd wanted nothing more than to disappear into the wilderness. The work was endless. Chopping timber, hauling logs, maintaining the property against the encroaching forest. He'd told himself he needed help. The loneliness had nothing to do with it. He knelt beside the sack, hesitating. Through the rough fabric, he could feel trembling. The merchant had bound the opening with coarse rope. Knotted so tightly it took Garen several minutes to work it free with his calloused fingers. "Easy now," he muttered, more to himself than to whatever was inside. "I'm not going to hurt you." The sack fell away, and Garen froze. She was small, barely reaching his chest if she stood, but she was no goblin. Her skin held a faint luminescence in the fading afternoon light, like moonlight on water. Silver-white hair tumbled past her shoulders, tangled with bits of straw and dirt, but it was her eyes that struck him silent. Bright amber, ancient and knowing, with vertical pupils that contracted as they met his gaze. "You're no goblin," Garen breathed. "No," she said simply. Her voice carried an accent he couldn't place, melodic and strange. "I am not." They stood in awkward silence. Garen's mind raced. He'd heard stories, of course, everyone had. Tales of the old folk who'd lived in these forests before humanity had pushed them back. Creatures of magic and mystery, who'd retreated into myth and legend. Most people dismissed such stories as children's tales. "What are you?" he asked, then immediately felt foolish. "I mean, you don't have to answer that." "I'm sorry," the merchant said. "The merchant was a liar and a thief," Lissa interrupted, brushing dirt from her tattered dress. "He captured me 3 months ago with iron chains and cold-forged locks. My kind cannot break such bindings easily." "Your kind?" She smiled, revealing teeth slightly too sharp. "Let us say I am what your people once called Fae, though that word carries much baggage and little truth." Garen's hand instinctively moved to the axe at his belt. Stories said the Fae were dangerous, capricious, fond of cruel bargains and twisted words. But this girl, woman, looked half-starved and exhausted, swaying slightly on her feet. "I won't keep you prisoner," he said finally, straightening. "You're free to go." Lisa's amber eyes widened with genuine surprise. "Free? I didn't buy you to own you. I thought—" He rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. "I thought you were something else. Someone who needed work, not a slave. That's not who I am." "Who are you then, Garen Holt?" He started at the sound of his name on her lips. "How did you—" "I heard the merchant use it," she said, though something in her expression suggested otherwise. "You are alone here, why?" The question was direct, almost childlike in its bluntness. Garen found himself answering before he'd decided to. "The world got too loud. Too much death, too much noise. Out here, it's just me and the trees. Trees don't judge. They don't die screaming." Understanding flickered in those ancient eyes. "You have seen war, haven't we all?" Lissa moved closer, studying his face with unsettling intensity. The merchant spoke truly about one thing. You do need help. Your cabin's roof has 3 weak points where water seeps through. Your axe is dull and poorly balanced. Your garden is overrun with shadowroot, which will poison the soil by spring. And you— She paused, tilting her head. "You are fading like a tree with rot in its heart." The accuracy of her observations left him speechless. He had been letting things slide, had noticed the creeping disrepair without caring enough to fix it. As for fading, well, that was uncomfortably perceptive. "I don't have much to offer," he said slowly. "But if you need a place to stay to recover your strength—" "A bargain, then," Lissa interrupted, her voice taking on a formal tone. "Shelter and food in exchange for honest work. No tricks, no bindings, no slavery. Either may leave when they choose." "That's not a bargain," Garen protested. "That's just fair." She laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "You truly do not know my kind, do you? Fairness is the rarest magic of all." Over the following weeks, Garen discovered that Lisa was worth far more than 10 silver coins. She moved through the forest like she was part of it, finding the straightest trees for timber and knowing which plants were medicinal and which were deadly. She repaired his roof with a skill that seemed impossible for hands so small. She sang while she worked, wordless melodies that made the very air feel cleaner. But more than that, she talked to him. Really talked about the deep history of the forest, about the wars between her people and his ancestors, about loneliness and loss that stretched across centuries. "My people are gone," she told him one evening as they sat by the fire. "Not dead, but distant. They retreated into the deep places when humanity grew too numerous, too loud. I stayed because I was curious. I wanted to understand your kind. And do you?" Garen asked. "Understand us? More than I did." She looked at him with those bright eyes. "You are not so different from us, you and I, both hiding from worlds that hurt us, both pretending we do not need connection." He had no answer to that. As winter approached, Garen realized he hadn't thought about leaving, or about Lissa leaving, in weeks. The cabin felt like a home rather than a hiding place. The work felt purposeful, and the silence between them had become comfortable, companionable. One morning, he found her standing at the forest's edge, staring into the deep woods with an expression of longing. "You can go," he said quietly, "like I promised. You're free." Lissa turned, and there was something different in her eyes, something warm and decidedly present. "What if I do not wish to go? What if I have found something here worth staying for? The cabin?" "The company," she corrected with a slight smile. "Humanity taught my people to fear and retreat. But you, Garen Holt, you remind me that sometimes connection is stronger than fear. That sometimes the bravest thing is to stop running." Garen felt something tight in his chest loosen, something he hadn't realized he'd been holding for years. "Then stay, as long as you want." "Another bargain?" "No," he smiled, genuine and unguarded. "An invitation." As snow began to fall softly through the pines, the lumberjack and the fae stood together in the clearing, two solitary souls who'd found something unexpected. Not slavery or obligation, but choice. And in that choice, perhaps, the beginning of healing. The forest, ancient and knowing, seemed to approve.